17 seats that are right down the middle right now could go either way. Now, of those, Mike, of those 17 seats, here's some of the numbers that y'all should write down at home. Of those 17 seats, currently, 14 of them are represented by Republicans. And 3 of those are represented by Democrats. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Latino Vote Podcast. That's right, I am back in charge. No more of this weaving on and off of the road. When I'm not here, he drives this son of a bitch into the ditch every damn time. Mike Madrid, how did you do with this without me?
I thought, every once in a while, I like to have a little bit of road to myself, and I think the viewers really love it.
You hit every tree on the road.
I hit every tree on the road. I aim for them. I'm not trying to stay on the road. I'm trying to weave it out, say the things I shouldn't say, because I won't get Chuck into trouble. And I'm like, screw it, let's go off road. Let's go test this out.
So here's what you should know. This morning I was listening to the podcast. I was at the gym. I'm in my regular routine. I want you to know every time that I look in that rearview mirror, all I see is a bunch of pretty Mexicans staring back at me. I can live with my conscience, just so you know, when I look in that rearview mirror. For all of you that was looking in that mirror when he had you self-reflecting, I thought we was going into a gosh damn California yoga session, deep dive into the spirit of the Latino vote. I don't even know that big word you used, but you used a big word. You called me out on it, and I couldn't remember it this morning. But it was a good one.
We'll revisit it again, I'm sure. But a lot of you Latinos, y'all need Jesus. That's what you need. You need a little Jesus. You need a little religion.
My wife is reading the Bible now. I'm learning all about Jesus.
You need a little religion. You need a little self-reflection. You say, wait a second. Maybe what I've been doing ain't working. That's all I'm saying.
Ooh, I like it. And thank all of you, again, seriously, for driving this thing without me. Great episode last week. Second topic today, we'll dig into a little bit of what you were talking about with some of these races and how our voters are going to make a big difference. Yeah. Also, big shout out to Andres, loving La Vida Rocha. Drop that track right here, baby. Yes, I like it a lot because you should know, for those of you who are wondering where I was in the world last week, I was with them Rocha boys, my 9-year-old twin grandsons, and my steam fitter son. I drugged them to Hawaii because that's now where the Rocha's spring break is, in Hawaii. Just all of you wondering about that money over here.
Wow.
Because I got a friend that lives in Hawaii that lets us stay in their house for free. For any of you who ever offer for Chuck Rocha maybe to come visit, just so you know, I will if you live in Hawaii. And I will visit a lot, and I'll bring my whole family like Mexicans are supposed to do. But Mike Madrid, we hiked the Nepali coast, and I almost killed 2 9-year-old boys on a 10-mile hike. Those stories are on my Instagram right now. There was laughing. There was crying. At one point, I looked around, and little Rowan was praying. I'm like, what are you praying for? He goes, I'm praying that we don't die, Abuelo. And I'm like, get your ass up here. We're going to be fine. So we did some hiking. Then we went out in a boat and took a picture of the Nepali coast from the water. Amazing, amazing things. I took them on a zip line where I tied their ass in, head first like Superman, and then chunked them down a mountain. When you go vacation with Abuelo, we have a big time.
Yeah, sounds like it. I mean, I was here writing. I was working. So I'm glad at least one of us is enjoying life. You've been a man about town for like the last year and a half. So first thing is, let's acknowledge that the getting's good if you're Chuck Rocha. Living La Vida Rocha is not a bad way to do it, man. I mean, Thanksgiving's got a big fat turkey the past couple of years. I'm proud of you, happy for you. And I also appreciate the fact that you share the travails, the adventures of your life around the globe, because I've got to live vicariously through you at this point.
Look, I think the word you used last week, Andres, is gallivanting. And gallivanting is exactly what we was doing. Gallivanting. We was gallivanting. And I made my son a promise. I said, we never had any money to go on vacation when I was a boy. My mama would take us to Six Flags once a year. And I think the only reason she went was to buy one of these little boat paddles because she used it to whoop us with. But it's a side story for my therapist for another day. But that was the only vacation we got. So I told him, I'm like, when I get some money, if I do nothing, I'm going to take those boys once a year somewhere. Well, the getting has gotten good over here. Write that down. The getting is getting good over here. And so now the boys wanted to do something with the Abuelo for spring break because we normally do something in the summer. So I added this spring break vacation because of my buddy who had a place that we could stay in for free over in the Kauai's. Now, I'll remind you, that's where me and my wife got married 2 years ago, again, because my great friend over there, Charlie, lets us stay at his place. But the Rocha boys had such a great time during the wedding. They were like, Abuelo, can we go back? And I was like, man, that's a long way, but we made it happen. Thanks everybody
I
again for all of your comments.
I got to jump in here and tell you about my vacations when I was a kid. The Madrid family vacations were largely a function of how much gas we could have in the Datsun wood panel station wagon. My parents and 3 of us kids, and as much money as we could get there and get back was what our vacations were. And one time we made it all the way to Gallup, New Mexico. And when I say Gallup, what I mean is we were sleeping at like truck stop, sideway
There's
rest
nothing
stops.
in Gallup.
What was that?
I've been to Gallup. Yeah. There's nothing in Gallup.
Well, that was our vacation because that's as far as we could get and maybe safely get back with the amount of money my dad could put back in the gas station. So my mom was convinced we needed to go see the country. We needed to get out of Little Mopar, California. We didn't have any money at all. So, if dad got a little bit of pay money, we could stretch out the utility bill a little bit. We could make the gas and the gas station, the old Datsun gas station stretch out. We would do that. And that was as far as we got. So, that was the vacation.
I think these things build characters in us when we're young, right? And so when we get older, my son never really had that much of a vacation because when my son was coming of age, remember, I was a 19-year-old with a baby. I never had any money. I never took my son on vacation anywhere.
Yeah.
So now the grandsons get to reap all the benefit of the riches of what little bit of, and I'm Mexican rich because I got money in a savings account now. So now I think I got money. I actually have money when I get my check. I got money left from the last check. So that is Mexican rich over at our household. But anyway, enough about mine and Mike's trauma of not having vacations as a child and how we have spoilt our children's. Let's talk about Latino politics. Now, for all of you nerds who was listening to Mike gallivanting his mouth last week, he talked a lot about what he's been seeing in poll numbers, what he's been seeing come to, let me use my words, fruition, come to a big existence here. I'm not sure if I used fruition right. But anyway, what I'm getting at is there was elections in Wisconsin this week. There was elections in Georgia this week for Marjorie Taylor Greene's seat. And there were some other elections in like Tulsa, Oklahoma, and school board races. And there's one thing across the board, and I'm going to kick it to Mike, is that there was an overperformance by Democrats, which we've now become accustomed to. But in the Marjorie Taylor Greene race, for instance, it was the largest overperformance that we've seen in any congressional special so far, over 23 points. And then there was something really crazy happening in Wisconsin and Oklahoma there. I'll stop that because Mike was tweeting about that, and I'll throw it over to Mike to see this continuation of a trend we're seeing with these Latino voters.
I love seeing now data journalists and people putting out precinct reports of like heavily Hispanic precincts in Wisconsin. Like, did you ever think you'd see the day, man, where that would be the case? But here we are. And again, that's part of the reasons why this podcast, I think, is growing by leaps and bounds. Incidentally, if you can make sure that you are subscribing wherever these podcasts are best found, give us that high 5-star review and share this. Join us on YouTube if you're not watching this. The show is a lot more fun that way. But both channels are growing really, really remarkably well. Just wanted to kind of drop that in there really quickly. But yes, so the Latino vote is look, a lot of listeners are going to say, okay, this was really predictable because it was. I don't think it took a big prognostication. There you go, Chuck. Big prognostication to say Latino voters were going to kind of swing back. The question was really how much. And while November is still a ways away, it's clear, like everywhere, pervasively, that the shifts that we're seeing of Latinos back away from what happened in 2024 is going to be historic. And I believe that we are going to have a record high turnout. I think it's going to surpass 2018 levels. And I think that there's a very good likelihood that that the vote break does hit the 2018 numbers, which means 20% support for Republicans in the House. Now, we're not anywhere near that in the polling. It's 27, 28, high 20s. It's standard baseline, 30-year baseline vote. I think it goes lower. And the reason why is because of what Chuck just said, which is none of the polling is capturing the intensity on the ground for the Democrats. None of it. Not a single poll has shown within about 5 to 7 points accurately how Democrats are doing. The Marjorie Taylor Greene seat was, it shifted 25 points. This is ruby red, like as red as you get country in northern Georgia. We saw a 50-point swing, 56% swing in one Lincoln Village precinct in Milwaukee last night. That's one of the most Hispanic dense communities in the area. This is unheard of Look, I was saying, as you all know, grew on your wig, as Chuck would say. God, it's starting to sound like Chuck. There's going to be this rightward shift that's going to happen if Trump gets elected. He's going to win with a Hispanic record share, the Hispanic vote, and everybody kind of just dismiss that. This is going to be more significant in the other direction. And as I have been trying to say and educate, and I don't think I will be listened to again, which is fine, keeps me busy.
I'm not, but go on.
Keeps me out of the unemployment line, because as long as you all keep just going, oh yeah, well, see, they finally realize they're Democrats. Oh well, see,
oh my God, say your point.
Finally realize they're all Republicans. What the point is this has nothing to do with the Democratic Party. Nothing. It has everything to do with the collapse of the Republican Party. And it's bad. It's historically bad. This shift is going to be unprecedented, and it's going to happen in areas and districts that people in the DC crowd, the Beltway crowd, have no idea is coming. Because a lot of these folks, when they're $10,000 suits walking around Capitol Hill, they're going, oh yeah, that Latino vote's still important in places like South Florida and in Texas and in California. They're not looking at these precincts in Milwaukee. They're not looking at these precincts in Georgia. They're not looking at these precincts in Oklahoma. So Chuck's going to walk us through some of that right now. But what I want you to do is be prepared and be ready, because there's going to be an entirely different Latino narrative going forward after this, when Latinos roar back. Not a hiccup, like Speaker Mike Johnson says. This is going to be a roaring lion, rejects the Republican Party soundly, and is positioned to swing right back to where it was in 2024. Mark my words. So, Chuck, you can walk us through some districts.
I will here in a minute, but I want to lead on to something else. You said something last week that stuck with me on the podcast. Again, I do these little regurgitations so that you'll know that I'm actually watching and listening to you. When you talked about the movement back to the Democrats with Latino voters, setting up this 2028, I don't know the big word to use there, but the way I would make it in a very Mexican redneck analogy would be, Mike's right. No matter what we do, there's going to be some movement back to Democrats for Latinos. I think if Democrats do this correctly, it could be astronomical, to Mike's point. So let's say that they do that, and we know they're going to do that. We don't know how much yet. That's the fairness there. So, and we win back the House, and I'm going to get to those districts in shortly that Mike's alluded to. But the real thing to think about, and gives us lots to talk about between now and 2028, is there's going to be this movement back, but Latinos, because Democrats may be in charge of the House and maybe even the Senate. Senate's harder, but even if they are, they can't pass laws because Donald Trump has to sign them. So there wouldn't be anything groundbreaking that would automatically make somebody's lives immediately better. The economy could get better, but if Latinos overperform back with Democrats, they usher in a majority in the House and maybe get the Senate tied or close to it, and then live another year where their life pretty much kind of stays the same, not because Democrats suck. This is Chuck Rocha talking, not Mike Madrid. Not that Democrats suck. It's because we couldn't really get anything passed. They won't understand this, but we couldn't because Democrats probably controlled the House. Republicans controlled the Senate because Vance is breaking a tie in a tied Senate and Donald Trump is the president. So that leaves Latino voters going, well, we voted in Trump. Our lives still suck. We just made the Democrats the majority in the House, but our lives really hadn't gotten any better. Which of you presidential candidates in 2028 want to come talk to us about actually making change? Because it seems like we're getting fucked by everybody. Again, to Mike Madrid's point on the podcast last week, that's really what to watch, because the two things that we described in the beginning are going to happen. They did vote for Trump in overwhelming numbers, and they are going to swing back to the left. But what we don't know, Mike Madrid don't know, Chuck Rocha don't know, is where and who can gather that support for a 28. Because what Mike's talked about with this swing back over these special elections, y'all, is there's 3 or 4 words Mike's leaving out that are the most important words, which are of the voters who voted. There's been this giant swing in Milwaukee of the Latinos who showed up. And a presidential election number is much different than a special election number, showing, to Mike's point, the energies with the Democrats. The ones that are showing up are overwhelmingly voting Democrat. But when you start getting to a midterm, it's less people. So that's good for Democrats. We've talked about that here. More of the base will vote. The Latinos that have a higher propensity to be Democrats will vote. All that's real. But what we have no fucking idea about is if there's this massive turnout in the presidential year for 28, which of those folks show up? Because there'll be a lot of those Trump voters. Do they choose to come back, choose not to come back? I'll stop talking now, Mike, and let you react to some of that.
No, that's all absolutely correct. I think one of the things, and again, we got a lot of stuff to get through before we start talking about the 2028 cycle.
Shit, true.
But what I will say is the reason why I think this is both top of mind is because we're both keenly aware that neither party is. This is Mike Madrid here. Neither party is prepared to handle all of this, guys. That's why we're seeing these swings. If either party had this figured out, they wouldn't be losing these voters every 18 months. So look, there's going to be this natural tendency for people to go, oh, look, all these Latinos came back after voting for Donald Trump in 2024. This is where they naturally belong. We just kind of figured it out. Maybe he kind of fooled us one election cycle. It wasn't happening for one election cycle. The shift has been happening for a decade. If you haven't learned anything, that's what I wrote a damn book about it. Like, how much more do I have to say? This is not anomalous. Only in the minds of people who are more Democrat than Latino or more Republican than Latino, which, by the way, is a lot of our listenership. People here are partisan. They're political. And they believe, they are absolutely convinced that their understanding of the world through their red or blue lens is the way Latinos think. That's wrong. That's just foundationally wrong. Look at the data points that out. We broke basically 50-50 last election cycle. That, by the way, is good news. It means that our people are much more open-minded and they want a better answer to what they've been getting from both parties. And that's my message. And that's my hope for what happens to us as a community. Yes, we will correct. We will come back and say, okay, Biden-Harris was a failure. It was a failure. They failed our community. There's no more debate about that. They were a failure. So they ended up voting for Donald Trump. Bad choice. Bad choice. I campaigned for Kamala. I was vocally, publicly supportive of Kamala. But I also get it. I'm not gonna hold it over our people and saying you shouldn't have done that. People are suffering. It was a failure. They knew what they were going to get with Kamala. Might as well roll the dice. And they crapped out. Didn't turn out well. So they're going to come back. The question becomes, what do the Democrats do with that? And where I do see a difference is, the problem is not what Democrats need to do. The problem is they're doing too damn much. That's what the polling with Latinos are saying, is get out of the way. Leave us alone. Let us go build an economy, build a family, and build a future. Having this discussion with somebody last night who was like, oh yeah, but once we get in there, we're the ones who support Medicare for all. We're the ones who support public education. We're the ones, and yeah, most of that stuff isn't working. It's not. You can't tell me the public education system is serving Latino children. You can't. You can't. So if your head's exploding because you're a member of a teachers union or you're way out there on the left, this is Mike Madrid. This is not Chuck Rocha. Send the hate to me. I'll have that conversation with you. 100 days straight in a row, including Sundays and overtime. You don't even have to pay me time and a half. Let's have that conversation because you're advocating for something that is not helpful for our communities. And with that, Chuck, let's get into the districts because I haven't even had coffee this morning and now I'm getting all hopped up.
There you go. Because I know how to steer him down a road. And that last week he started veering off the road. He'd go down the dirt road and have to turn around and come back. Anyway, we're going to stay on the highway here. I want to talk about what Mike talked about last week, which was Mike made reference to the 40-seat pickup in 1994 for all you old heads. He alluded to me working for Ann Richards. He alluded to him being in some graduate school in the south of France or wherever he was. But he talked about the races and how there will never be, because it was a different point in time, a 40-seat pickup. Is it possible? For sure. But I'm going to tell you today why that's so difficult. Because there's been so many redistricting, and every year in redistricting, they make more and more seats safe Democrat or safe Republican. And I think that's actually at the key, and it's a whole separate TED Talk from Chuck Rocha around that being the crux of what's wrong. But I want to give you political animals some ammunition when you talk about why the Latino vote matters so much and why it's not going to be 50 seats like it was in 1994. Mike, there's a new report out, and I'm not telling you anything here that is proprietary. I think that means secret. Cook Political Report moved 4 or 5 seats more one way or the other this week to update their chart, which is kind of the gold standard. And of the 4 seats they moved, each one of them became more Democratic, whether it was a lean or a toss-up, whatever. But here's the final of where we are today, and this will change again. But today you should know that there's 17 marginal races. That means there's 17 that they think, at Cook Political Report, and both parties actually agree with this. 17 seats that are right down the middle right now could go either way. Now, of those, Mike, of those 17 seats, here's some of the numbers that y'all should write down at home. Of those 17 seats, currently, 14 of them are represented by Republicans. And 3 of those are represented by Democrats. So if Republicans ran the gamut of all these, and we know they're not, they would pick up 3 seats and they would keep all theirs safe and they retain the majority. But the reason I bring that up is, let me name some of these seats so you can see what I'm talking about, because I'm overwhelmed by how many of these seats have an emerging Latino community. There are 2 seats in Arizona. We talk about them all the time. An open seat in Northern Phoenix in Arizona 1, and then the Juan Ciscomani seat in Arizona 6 in Tucson. The Latina who's running against Juan Ciscomani, Mike, this quarter, the numbers came out yesterday. She raised $2.3 million.
What's her name? Do you know her name?
Yeah, her name, it's on the tip of my tongue. I'm going to look it up while we're talking.
Yeah.
Or Andres, pop it to me. But she is a Marine Corps veteran. She's friends with Ruben. She was a drill sergeant. She is from the community, like a great candidate. You couldn't have scripted any better. And a Latina running against a Latino Republican. This will be something I'll be watching with my popcorn, because I cannot wait to see this. We're on this race on the IE side, but those 2 races are 2 of the most pivotal out there. And I'm going to throw in 2 more before I'm going to get Mike's reaction on the 4. And keep in mind, I'm going to quickly go through the 17, but the other 2 are Valadeo in California 22 and Colorado 8, the one that the Republicans picked up from the Latina that was there last cycle. That was a new seat after redistricting. So the first 4 districts are heavily Latino, Mike.
Yeah, and I think Valadeo loses. I don't say that lightly. Reporters call me every election cycle, and they have for the past 15 years on that seat. There's only one other time I said Valadeo was going to lose, and that was in 2018. And guess what? He lost. That district is moving and trending more and more Republican, and has been up until this Prop 50 redraw. So again, I'm talking to folks that aren't familiar with California. This is right in the heart of the Great Central Valley. This is ag country. This is the most Latino district in America represented by Republicans, Mexican Americans anyway. There may be a couple in South Florida, a couple Cuban precincts, but this is the most heavily Latino Mexican American district in the country that is represented by a Republican, and he has held on. And not only has he held on, he's slowly, incrementally increasing his vote margin. Now, the Democrats came in, got a voter approved measure, Proposition 50, a few months ago, as you'll remember, responding to the Democrats, of the Republicans trying to steal some seats in Texas. And his seat got considerably less Republican. So,
but not like a lot, like 2 points, right, Mike?
Yeah, but that's true. That is only 2 points. But when I say considerably, he wins by less than 2 points every year.
Oh,
and this is going to be a very big Democratic wave year. So watch this seat, because if this goes, and it should go towards the Democrats, you're going to hit one of those wave elections. You're going to see a wave election coming. And like I said, it's too early to pick up what the over-under is on the seats, but you could easily see a 20 seat plus pickup for the Democrats easily. I think, by the way, every one of those seats you're talking about, every one of those goes towards the Democrats, those 17 marginal seats.
17 seats in the middle. I will keep going because we could do this all day, but I'm going to stay in these toss-ups. You keep going down the list. There's 2 in Iowa. There's 1 in Michigan. The Michigan one has about 10% Latino. New Jersey 7, about 8% Latino. The Lawler seat in New York, that's where the former DCCC chairman lost to Lawler. That Lawler seat's about 15% Latino. Marcy Kaptur's the first Democrat. They drew lines also, Mike, in Ohio, but they cut a deal. It becomes a little bit more Republican. Marcy's been there for a gajillion years. And then there's some Pennsylvania 7, Pennsylvania 8, Pennsylvania 10. All 3 of these, guess what, girls and boys? They're all in the eastern part of the district. They're all, growing Dominican and Puerto Rican population that's moved over from New Jersey. That Pennsylvania 7 district is Bethlehem, Allentown. It's almost 20% Latino. Pennsylvania 8 is 15%. Pennsylvania 10 is 12%. You have this growing population in Pennsylvania. And then the last couple are, guess what? Gonzalez in Brownsville, who we always talk about down there, Vicente, toss-up race. This is one of the races Mike Madrid's talked about where they moved this race 10 points more right But now it's in the toss-up category when this thing, by all right measures, should be in the likely Republican column. It's in the toss-up column when Donald Trump in this race, Mike Madrid, won this race by 12 points, and the seat's a toss-up. Any reaction to that?
Yeah, these are the seats, these heavy Latino seats. There was a 56-point shift in Wisconsin in Latino seats. We're seeing 36-point shifts, 50-point shifts, 40-point shifts in all these specials with Latinos. That this volatile group, like I said, we're not used to seeing that because we're not used to seeing swing voters in America. What is emerging is a swing voting bloc. We are the swing voters. And like what I really want people to do is lean into that. That's our strength. That's what's going to happen. That's when both parties are worried about our vote. That's when our agenda starts to get accomplished, guys. And this is unprecedented. What was that?
It's the exact reason we're having this Latino summit we're going to talk about at the end of the program is because of what Mike just said. Both parties should be doing everything we say because it's up to us for this majority in these 17 seats. Of these 17 seats, a little back of the envelope, Chuck Rocha math here, we are going to have a dramatic impact on over half of them. Actually, about 60 or 70% of them, where if you put them baseline, Mike, at like 12%, 10% Latino, which is a big impact on a toss-up congressional race, then you start seeing the impact. And there's only like 3 left, one in Virginia, one in Washington State. And the one in Washington State, guess what, is a Latina. That Democrat Latina who won there when nobody was looking, named Perez, and then one in Wisconsin. So just in the marginal toss-up seats, again, there's just 17. When Mike talks about the 40 seats, there's not 40 seats here, but there's 17 in the middle. But let me expand really quickly. On each side of this toss-up list for Cook Reports, there's these races that lean a little bit to the Democrats, and there's some that lean to the Republicans. Now let's look at the lean Democratic seats very quickly. But in the lean Democratic seats, there's 14 of those races. Again, 17 toss-ups, 14 races that lean Democrat. And of those, they're all Democratic incumbents except for 2. There's an open Nebraska seat, and there's an open California 48 seat, which is the Darrell Issa seat. Now, for those of you political animals at home, you know that this Nebraska seat that's currently represented by a Republican is one of the few seats that Kamala Harris actually carried, but a Republican incumbent won. So that, in my back, looks like a tough one for Republicans to hold when now it's open. Mike knows all about this Issa seat in California 48 that became way more Democratic. But they have it in the lean Democrat. But I believe whichever Democrat, if the right Democrat comes out of that primary, Mike, that one's there. And I also think, and I'll say this, that every Democrat in this lean Democratic column, and I'm going to give Mike a few of them and I'm going to stop talking, wins easily. And Mike would say, why is that in a lean D? It should be a safe D. But I'm just telling you where they are. California 13, Mike Madrid talks about gray all the time. It's in a lean. Henry Cuellar, another redistricted seat. It's in a lean. New York 3, New York 4. Oh my God, Mike, our buddy in New Mexico too, Gabe Vasquez, used to be a toss-up. They have it in a lean D. I think because he don't have any real Republican opposition this year, it's absolutely safe. So what is your reaction to these lean D seats?
I think they're more Democrat than Cook is crediting. And look, I think the Cook researchers, I think
they're very conservative.
They're very conservative, and that's understandable because if you're not, then you're just kind of, you're just throwing stuff out there. But this is, Amy Walter, who heads up the Cook Report. She's solid. She nails. I mean, she's really good. But again, I think they are very conservative, and they also, by the way, they're also basing a lot of this stuff off of some of the publicly available polling. And remember, when the public polling is not capturing the intensity. I read an article today saying that the Democratic anger is volcanic right now, which is why you're getting these turnout numbers that are messing up everybody's models. And let me explain for the listeners what that means just real quick. Most pollsters will know that, but let's just say hypothetically for ease of understanding, you have a district that's 50% Republican and 50% Democrat. There's no such district. That doesn't exist. But let's just say that was the case. But you've got one group that is significantly more interested in turning out because they're either enthused and happy like the 2008 Obama Hope years, or you're volcanically angry and pissed off like Democrats right now during the Trump era. That means that the way you get the results from your poll should not be reflected 50-50 because Democrats are going to show up in higher numbers than Republicans are going to show up. So you weight the poll, WEIGHT. You weight the poll and you make it maybe 60-40 Democrats, 55-45. That weighting is the art form of what a pollster does. They look at traditional turnout models, they look at the history, they look at similar elections, and they basically guess. They guess. And the problem with guessing is, I mean, it's kind of inherent to what it is, but there's another problem with it, which is you can't like Mike Madrid, it's easy for me to say people are pissed off, there's going to be a record turnout. I think I'm probably right. But if I do this for a living, and I'm working off of nothing but my gut, that's not reliable. You have to go off of what history says, and that history tells you, yeah, it probably Gabe Vasquez's district probably leans Democrat. Even though he's in a Democrat-advantaged district slightly, he's got a weak Republican candidate, and it's a very strong Democrat environment. All of that tells Mike Madrid that's a strong Democratic position. But it tells an analyst and a researcher, oh, it leans Democrat. So that they're going to be right, but they're not overestimating it. They're using quantifiable metrics to justify their argument, justify their position. A guy like me who's saying, look, I can smell a district like that. I know what this environment feels like. The Democrats, Gabe Boss is going to kick some ass down there. And I think he is. And so it's easy for me to say that because if I'm wrong, Chuck just busts my chops the next day on the podcast and we keep going on. So they're very conservative in their prognostications, in their guesswork, because it is guesswork in the final analysis. But like I said, we're not in a traditional cycle. This is going to be a big deal. And that's going to push a lot of these districts, these 17 districts I said, I'm predicting it right now. And maybe I'll hedge later if everything turns around. But all 17 of those districts are going to go for the Democrats. That's a 14-seat pickup just with the marginal seats. Now you get into these second tier seats, which is probably another 15 or 20. You know better than I do. I think Democrats win most of those too. Like I think it's going to be that big.
Democrats represent most of those. To your point, Mike, about why the number 40 is not there. Those lean seats, Democrats have all of them. And if they were to take all of them, there was only 2 Republican pickup opportunities. So if we won all the toss-up, now for all of you at home, that's 14 plus 2. Now we're only, to Mike's point, we're getting close to that 20 number where he was last week in the podcast, which I think is very realistic. So the 14 plus 2 more, now we're at 16. Now, Chuck, how many are lean R's? There's only 3 races in America right now that are lean R's, and one of those is a Democrat in North Carolina because of, again, redistricting in North Carolina. The other's an open seat in Michigan and a Virginia seat. These Virginia lines are under the old map. Again, Virginia's looking at redistricting. So let's call all of that just a wash. And so we're at Mike Madrid's 16-seat pickup when he said, well, maybe it could be 20 or maybe even 30 in a pickup year. Let me mention this and I'll get off of this topic. Is I didn't talk about the likely. I talked about the lean Ds. I didn't talk about the likely Ds because they're damn sure all going to be winners because they're even more Democratic in their seats. What I want to talk about are the likely Republicans, where there are 17 new races that nobody, Cook Political Report or Chuck or Mike, in a normal year, you would have no chance in hell at winning these races because all of these are Trump double-digit races, that he won all of these seats by double digits, Trump did. But there are 17 of them, and Mike, of those, Republicans have 15 of them, and Democrats only have 2 currently. And the 2 that the Democrats have are open seats. There's one in Maine, and there's one in a new district in Texas 35. But, Mike, the reason I bring this list up, I'm going to name some of these races, and you're going to go, well, we have a pretty good shot at maybe winning those because guess who's on this list? Texas 15, Bobby Polito. Yeah. These are the kind of races. Florida 27, Salazar, starting to sound familiar.
Yeah.
Florida 13, Luna, sound familiar. Arizona 2, Crane. Texas 23, the Tony Gonzalez seat. The point I'm making here, y'all, is there's a lot of Latino seats in these likely R's to where our vote, to Mike's point, will literally be the margin of winning between 10 seats or 25 seats, Mike.
I think any R plus 11 seat is basically a 50-50. Like, but a lot of people go, Mike, you're smoking crack. Okay, maybe. But show me where I've been wrong for the past 18 months. Like, if it's like, okay, maybe I am. Like, that is
the overperformance last night, y'all, in Georgia was 23 points.
Yeah, like, okay, maybe I am over. Like, nobody says that. Like, this is going to be a D plus Democrat plus 11 environment, which means it's like golf. You're walking in there with 11 handicap. You're fronted 11 percentage points from the start. No, very few political pundits will say that. I'm saying it. Yeah, only because that's what the environment is that we're in. You can't, most are saying, oh, this will be a Democrat plus 4, Democrat plus 5 with the environment that we're looking at. Look at the generic ballot, read the CNN poll. And what I'm saying is, I don't care about any of these polls. They're good, they're data points, but which ones have been right? They've all been undercounting the Democratic intensity by 6-7 points. So you take the 6-7 points plus the 5 that they're gauging in, that's like 11-12 points. And by the way, that's how these races have been turning out. So I'll say it, yeah. And maybe I'll be wrong. Maybe the environment does change. But at this point in time, Chuck, we're looking at a Democrat plus 11 environment on the ground, in reality, with actual voters. Maybe not in the polls, but I just explained why the polling's getting it wrong. So I'm willing to take that heat and let a bunch of the national pundits come out and say Mike Madrid doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. Maybe not, but that certainly has been the environment for the past 18 months.
Before we change gears to end the show on the California governor's race, I want to bring up one point because it's the Latino Vote podcast. There's been a development, Mike, in the seat in Florida 28. I don't know if you've been following it, but Florida 28 is the seat that's the most southern Florida seat there is. So it takes in all the Keys, and it takes in Homestead and parts of southern Miami. Joe Garcia is represented. There's been a lot of folks who we know who've been there. It's currently represented by Carlos Jimenez. But the development was there was a Latino former Google executive named Hector Mujica who was running for the U.S. Senate in Florida. He drops his bid for the U.S. Senate. Vindman, who decided to run for Senate, endorses Hector. And now Hector's running in the 28th congressional seat. Dominican, bilingual, former Google executive, wow. Very, very tied into corporate America, also tied into working class voters in Southern Florida. Like he's the total quote unquote package of what you would need to win a seat like that in South Florida. And so his race is not even on this list, y'all. But that's the kind of race where you have a great candidate who can fundraise, who's got a professional team around him. I'm not working for him, but he's a friend of mine. I'm supporting him. I think he's going to be great. What's races like that? I think there's going to be a handful of races like that, to Mike's point, especially in South Florida, especially things could change dramatically if Trump goes. Think about if Trump goes into Cuba and there's trying to overthrow the government or whatever the hell goes on over there. There's only one little piece, and Mike talks about this again, of the world where that really matters. Well, it overlaps 4 congressional seats in South Florida, right, Mike?
Yeah, that's well put. But this is the first time I've thought about this because as of the recording, it's Wednesday morning, Donald Trump was promising to nuke Iran up until, a few hours ago. Basically, it looks like we've lost this war with Iran. I mean, we haven't gotten into this. We probably shouldn't do it in this episode. But you know what this really does change? I don't see any possible way Trump goes into Cuba anymore. I mean, I could be wrong. Things could be changing, but when you said that was the first time I'd heard that. It's like, this guy's so on the defense now. This guy's losing a war in the Middle East that it costs us over $1 billion a day. The Iranians are in a better economic position now than when we started. He can't finish this off. We've allowed the Chinese and every other foreign enemy to see all of our weaknesses as a military. I would be stunned if this guy tried to make a move on Cuba right now. Anyway.
Follow Hector Mujica. That's Mujica. I talked to Hector this week. He is putting together a great race down there. And I like to go as part of the Living La Vida Rocha down to the Florida Keys a lot, Mike. That's where I do my fishing.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to make him my friend because there'd be nothing to me better than elect a Democratic congressman in the Keys where I'd have to go down, quote unquote, for a meeting.
For work.
That's where we like to do our meetings.
Well, we're going to send
on the fishing boat.
We'll send you down with a little recording equipment so you can do a special interview with the new Congress.
So before we close this thing out, Mike, I wanted to ask you about the California. I know y'all like to vote out in California, and it is April. The June primaries comes up, so I bet y'all have already got like 2 rounds of ballots at y'all's house waiting to start voting. I wanted to ask what your opinion was, and I had heard through the grapevine that you may or may not be moderating a governor's debate or something? What do you think? What's going on out there?
Yeah, next week I'll be debating a forum for the California Hispanic Chamber of Commerce with most of the top tier gubernatorial candidates. So just a gentle reminder, as crazy and as hot-headed as Mike Madrid is, still respected voice on both sides. Whether you like me or not, I got to make some good points, and we need to have a good discussion about it. So I know y'all love me. Chuck loves me more than he says it.
Yeah,
he does. But yeah, and I will be reporting back because I'm going to be having a discussion. Our good friend Javier Becerra will be there. Antonio Villaraigosa, been like a dad to me over the years. They will be part of this discussion. I will be making sure that these candidates for governor are speaking directly to our community and some of the issues that I think have been ignored far too long in the state of California. And I want some real clear, direct, honest answers. So good people on the stage. It's going to be a great debate. I think it's not even going to be a debate. It's going to be a discussion, which, as you know, I'm more interested in anyway. I really want to pull out some of the ideas that these folks have, not the political bullshit stuff, but like, who's the next governor going to be? Let's just have a talk.
I got a point of personal privilege. If you're going to have a forum and there's going to be questions, I have been, and this is Chuck Rocha talking, not Mike Madrid. I have been disappointed by all of these people in the amount of money. And again, I get it, y'all, Spanish advertising and all, but I'm saying if you're not advertising in Spanish, are you really advertising specifically to Latinos in English about a message they do? I want to know when they talk about Latino vote this or Latino vote that, a question saying, well, how much money have you spent reaching and talking to Latino voters? Because not many of them, even Steyer, who has spent $100 million, hasn't spent any money yet. I'm sure it's coming on Spanish language advertising. You say that we matter. You say you want to reach us, but no peso, no say so. Start talking to the community about what your vision is for California, for God's sakes. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. I think that's right. And look, there are some nuances. California is so big, by the way, that you can't really break through with GRPs, as we call them, gross rating points. You can't really break through until in a meaningful way unless you can sustain a $10 or $15 million a week buy. That's California. That's how big we are.
Ooh.
So unless you're going to spend $80, $100 million, which most campaigns can't, you start investing that money later. So I'm not too sure. I don't think anybody's spent any money, probably not even Steyer at this point, like you said, but check the reservations. See who's reserving time. That's
a good point.
That might tell you a little bit more.
Yeah.
I'm not justifying it. I'm just trying to explain it. It's just such a big, big state, and it's so hard to raise money and break through. Everybody holds their gunpowder till the last part of it, and then they just open fire on each other.
Mike made a good point last week about what his vision was for either one of the parties, some and mostly disappointments in both of those parties. And I was sitting and thinking while I was watching it, how important what we have planned for June is because of what Mike is talking about. I think it'll be the first time ever where there are Latino labor leaders and Latino business leaders in the same room. It'll be the first time that we have people from the Latino environmental movement and the Latino Business Council in the same room.
Mm-hmm.
You will have folks who work on Capitol Hill for Republicans and folks that work on Capitol Hill for Democrats. And we're all going to get on the stage together. We're going to have a conversation about our gente, and we're going to be respectful. We're not going to, this ain't a place to come and motherfuck your party and the other party. This is about finding solution and making sure that our voice is heard in the room. The Latino Vote Summit is coming up on June the 23rd in Washington, D.C. Me and Mike have started really, and I want to give Mike and Mike's team, they've been doing an amazing job at helping us do some fundraising so that we can pay for this nice venue that I'm not telling you about right now, or all of y'all try to show up for free when y'all need to be invited because we only got so many seats, and we want to have the right people in the room when, you know, we love you all. Most of you will get in anyway. But I really wanted to pump this Latino Vote Summit that me and Mike, it was a dream 2 years ago, and now me and Mike are making it happen, Mike.
Yeah, and again, I want to make this clear. This is going to be the first of what the interest has been really big. I just got a couple of messages today on my LinkedIn of all places saying, "Hey, can I get more information? I want to get out there from California." Look, this first initial one is we have to make it sort of an invite only. There'll be more than a couple hundred people there, but we've got to find balance. But here's the thing, guys: this is going to be the first of a regional effort. We understand that there's interest, and we're going to take the show on the road, and we're going to do this around the country. So even if if you're interested and maybe can't attend this first one, let us know if you're interested in hosting one of these somewhere else in the country. Clearly Texas, clearly California, clearly Florida, but other parts of the country too. If you're willing to help us organize and put something together, reach out to us. We've got an extensive network. There's going to be a lot of these people from all over the country that are going to want to do follow-ups and do regional summits. That's why we're doing this. And the goal again here is to get people from both sides, from across the aisle, and say, you know what? I'm not a Republican Latino. I'm not a Democrat Latino. I'm a Latino Republican. I'm a Latino Democrat. People who are willing to put their community ahead of their party. If you feel like you're capable of doing that, we want to talk to you. Okay. And because that's we're not no judgment on Republicans or Democrats. God bless you. We need to be involved at every level, but it's clear from what's happening, guys, that neither party is getting it, and that's on us. By the way, I don't blame the parties. I don't. You never hear me when I go on my rants. I'm not blaming the parties. I'm blaming our vacuum, our lack of leadership from within our community. And the next step is then let's build it. And that's what we're going to start building. Latino Summit, June 23rd, Washington, D.C.
Another one of the things I want to bring up about this summit is that I want to hat tip and shout out the folks who have stepped up big. Me and Mike on this first one are just trying to raise the money. And when you hear us talk about raising money, it's to cover food. Any of you who have done this know we got to pay for the room and we got to pay for some food. We got to pay for some coffee. And that ain't free in Washington. Thank you to Univision, who's already stepped up. Guess what? Guess who talked to me last week and sent me a DM? Telemundo. They said, Chuck, we're interested. Can you send us information on how we can help sponsor? And look, if you have somebody that you know maybe want to be a sponsor to the Latino Vote Summit, write this email down and you can email us your ideas about folks who could help us sponsor, especially if you can sponsor or the company you belong to can sponsor or the union you belong to sponsor or the nonprofit, yada, yada. It's Latino Vote Podcast at gmail.com. I'll do that again for you folks in the back. Latino Vote Podcast at gmail.com. If you know somebody who wants to help us pay for some of this as a sponsor, that's a surefire way to you to get in the room, because we need to get not a bunch of sponsors, but we got to get a few. That way we can at least pay for the coffee and stuff, right, Mike?
Yeah, that's it. And that's wherever everybody can be helpful. And again, a lot of you listeners are involved in the public affairs space. If there's opportunities to kind of sponsor not just this event, but events at the regional level, that's what starts a movement. That's what gets this thing going. And the hope here, guys, is to start developing and refining a Latino voice. We're going to be talking about immigration and what that's going to look like, what Republicans can do to be helpful, what Democrats can do to be helpful, where those sacrifices on both sides are going to be made. Value each other by the fight that you're putting in on each side, by standing up and saying, I'm going to buck my party on this because it's beneficial to the community, the economy, affordability, immigration. We'll have some great speakers. It's not going to be a whole litany, by the way, of politicians. There will be some, but you're not coming to just listen to politicians speak. There's going to be some of that. But by and large, you're going to be hearing from people who are actively engaged in doing what we're saying, which is I'm working to get the business community to move in this direction to help advocate for the community. I'm working to in the Republican Party to create a bulwark, a defense against what's happening here and push back against the crazy that we're seeing in the White House and in Congress right now. And likewise, you're going to see it from Democrats as well. That's what we're trying to build. I'm not trying to create something bipartisan, by the way. Anybody who follows, listens to me, Chuck is a great Democrat. He's got a values based. I love him for that. I'm not focused on either party. You can't, but I'm not judging those that are. I'm focused on the community. There's data telling us some real clear. We can debate policy differences all day long, but it's very clear what we need for our community at this point in time. And I'm planning on spending a significant part of the rest of my career fighting for my community. Whether I've got to stand up to Democrats or Republicans, I'm willing to do that, and I'm hoping to find other people willing to do that too.
I think that's right. And, we've had a great response. And to Mike's point, this is not going to be your cattle call of congressman or, all those. We are going to have Ruben Gallego. That's our big draw we're going to have a town hall and have a question. Last week, Mike talked about a few people he thought that was putting our community over party. And he mentioned Ruben. He mentioned Gabe and a few others, even James Tallarico. We're going to have folks there who want to have a conversation around this is the way me and Mike have been talking about on our conference calls is We want to get a group of people together and talk about the 70% of things that we have in common and what we can try to fix in both parties, and not just sit and tear each other apart over the 20% of the stuff that we disagree on. Me and Mike do it every day on this podcast. We give each other shit because we're brothers, but we don't personally attack each other because I disagree with Mike's financial philosophy on whatever give and take economic philosophy he may have. I forgot what you call it, capping game, whatever that thing is. But if I got money in my checking account, as we both agreed, I am doing economically pretty well. Matter of fact, Mike, I didn't even know you could get a suit that cost $10,000. That was news to me. That shows you what they do over at the Georgetowns. Again, if you're listening, as Mike said last week, smash that like button. He talked about the YouTube and how our YouTube audience is growing. That week, you can see our pretty faces. Share it with somebody. Subscribe to it. And then that helps show folks that other folks it shows up in their algorithm. And it's really helpful to the overall thing. If you're still lucky enough to have your mom and dad, give them a call this week. I got to spend some time with my grandsons, and all of you at home, that's one of the special things. And I'll always tell this podcast they can kiss my ass if I get a chance to go be with those grandboys, as I do. And I try to take care of them as much as I can, even though I may have to put my hands on them every now and then, but that's because I love them. Anyway, I love y'all. Y'all come see us. Until next week, we're gone.